I may be a pirate, but I don't really talk like that. Good evening to all you fine ladies and gentlemen. How are you in this sweltering heat? Yes. Are you cold? Well, I'm not. Well, yes. Well, it is true that my name was Alisa Blackwell Dupuy at one time in my life, and I am here tonight as a representative of the 18th century and of the sweet trade, or pirating. Privateering, as I like to think. Sometimes governments gave licenses to private sailors to attack enemy shipping on behalf of a specific king. Now, I was called Alisa Blackheart for many years because of those who did not understand the requirements of the sweet trade. But I can tell you that there is one queen who made pirates. Have you heard of Queen Elizabeth I? Yes. Yes. She made pirates. Francis Drake, John Hawkins, Walter Raleigh. She gave them letters of marque, allowing them to attack enemy shipping on her behalf. Let me divest myself of my weapons because I have a letter of marque to show you. So, a letter of marque. This is for William I think it was for William the Kid from William III. So I'm going to pass this around so you can see it. This letter of marque would legalize the attacking of enemy ships. Now, why would Queen Elizabeth want to attack specifically Spanish ships? Because of the gold that they plundered here in the Americas. So, but Queen Elizabeth did create pirates, but her probably most famous interaction was with a female pirate by the name of Grace O'Malley, or Granuelle as she was known in her home country of Ireland. Grace O'Malley was a strong-willed girl. She was the daughter of a chieftain who wanted to follow in her father's footsteps by being a leader and engage in trade. When she was a young girl, she cut off all of her hair, dressed as a boy, and went with her father on a trading expedition. She did eventually agree to an arranged marriage and had children, but this did not prevent her from becoming a successful pirate, an excellent trader. She was also a chieftain in her own right and a rebel against the encroaching English. When her sons were kidnapped by the English governor, Sir Richard Bingham, she decided that she would meet with Queen Elizabeth herself on her own terms. And their meeting was mythic. So, well, apparently we only have 3 of these left somehow, but I'll pass these around. There we go, if you could just sort of make sure they make their way back. So she appeared at the court of Queen Elizabeth, dressed in a gown, which she very rarely wore. However, on her person, there was a dagger. And the courtiers, were shocked that she would bring a dagger into the presence of the Queen. But it is said that Queen Elizabeth remarked, "No, let her keep the dagger. She won't use it on me. I know something about what it's like to be a woman in a man's world." And they had to speak Latin because neither spoke the other's language. Granuelle spoke Gaelic and Elizabeth spoke English. So they conversed in Latin. It is said that at one point Granuelle had to sneeze and a courtier gave her a lace handkerchief. She blew her nose and threw the handkerchief into the fire. And everyone was so shocked. And she said, "Well, I don't know about here, but in Ireland, we throw away those dirty things." Do you know both those queens, because she was a queen in her own right, they both died in 1603. Yes, yes. And she did negotiate with Queen Elizabeth her own terms. Now, Granuelle was Irish, But the first known American-born pirate was Rachel Wall. She was born in 1760 in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, to a family of devout Presbyterians. Now, they lived on a farm outside of Carlisle, and she was very unhappy about that situation. So she took up and went to Harrisburg, where she loved to walk along the waterfront. And one day, she was attacked by a gang of girls. Why there was a gang of girls on the docks, I know not. But there was a man by the name of George Wall who rescued her. And they were married despite her mother's misgivings. They moved to Boston, where George became a fisherman on a fishing schooner. And Rachel got herself a job as a servant. When George came back from the fishing trip, I think he'd had enough of that. He decided that he and his friends, including Rachel, were going to become pirates. He borrowed a schooner, promising the owner a share of the profits. And they had a system. Whenever there would be a storm, they would go out right after the storm. And they would lie in wait. The crew would hide below. Rachel would stand on the decks, screaming and yelling as if they were shipwrecked, luring other ships close by. And then the crew would come out and attack. And in this way, they captured 12 ships, $6,000 in cash, lots of booty, and they killed 24 sailors, all between 1781 and 1782. Yes, now, one day, because we know how karma works, one day, her husband and the crew were inadvertently washed overboard, and Rachel had to make her way back to shore, where she had to support herself, so she got another job as a servant. Do you think she liked that job after her life of pirating? No. And every evening, she would prowl the docks. She would see all the ships that were anchored there. She would make her way into the ships, down into the holds, and steal whatever she could. And then one day, it was her last theft. She saw a young girl walking along the docks, and she coveted the beautiful bonnet that the girl was wearing. She went to steal the bonnet and tried to cut out the girl's tongue. Yes, she was captured. And I have a quote here. She was tried and hanged on October 8th, 1789. And her final words were these: "Into the hands of the Almighty God I commit my soul, relying on His mercy, and die an unworthy member of the Presbyterian Church in the 29th year of my age." Her death marked the last occasion that a woman was hanged in Massachusetts. Yes. There were many women like Grace O'Malley and Rachel Wall over the years that wanted to live lives that they could not live because they were women, and they didn't want to live the lives that were decided for them by men. One of the most influential pirates she started her career in a Cantonese brothel. Yes, Madame Chung. She was known as Chung Isao, or wife of Chung Yi, and she was a prostitute who married a powerful pirate named Chung Yi. And the two of them amassed a strong fleet. They had control over hundreds of ships and 50,000 pirates. And they would attack shipping, supply junks, fishing vessels, and all the coastal villages of southern China. When he died in 1807, Madame Chung, she became known, took power. And partnering with a trusted lieutenant, who also was her lover, named Chang Pao, they created an undefeatable fleet that rivaled the navies of many countries. She also had a very strict pirate code. Do you know about the pirate code? Her pirate code stated that any sailor, any pirate that deserted her service, if caught, would have his ears lopped off. She also decreed that any pirate that raped a female prisoner would be beheaded. Her bloody reign became the bane of the Chinese government, and she became public enemy number one. And it became their goal to capture her. But they didn't know how to do it. She was so powerful. So they called in the navies of the British, of the Portuguese, to help them. Well, Madame Cheng wasn't stupid. So instead of duking it out at sea with 3 different navies, she decided to negotiate a peace treaty. She promised that she would lay down her cutlass in exchange for being allowed to keep all of her ill-gotten gains. And they agreed. She used the money to open up a gaming house and retired from pirating, one of the richest women in China, and she ran that gaming house until 1869. Or no, 1844, at the age of 69. One of the most powerful women in China. What do you think of that? 我认识她，我会说一点普通话，可是我说的不好。So I, as for me, was not born in China. I traded there. I was born here in the American colonies, which of course are now the United States of America after our revolution against the British. Seems to me we have a birthday coming up soon, do we not? Yes, 250 years. Are you ready to celebrate like it's 2026? Yes. So I was born to a wealthy farmer, a prominent farmer in our community. And my father believed, quite wrongly, that upon my attaining the age of 18, I would simply marry the first young man who he deemed worthy of my dowry. All the young men in my county were boring beyond all imagination, and I could simply not tolerate the idea of living my life the way my poor mother had. Childbirth, time after time, until you died of it. Church on Sunday, wash on Monday, tea in the afternoons, evenings, sitting sewing in front of the fire, and of course, submission to a husband in all things. Oh no, that was not the life for me. So, when I met a wild young sailor by the name of Bernard Dupuy, I ran off with him. We were married at his insistence, but at mine, we boarded the first ship for New Providence in the Bahamas. I bound my breast and dressed like a man because, you know, sailors are a very superstitious lot, and many do not like the idea of having a woman on board. Oh, do not express shock and surprise that I would dress as a man. Men have all the rights, and many women all throughout history have used this subterfuge in order to live lives that would have been denied them by their gender. And I can tell you that my life mirrors very closely that of one of the most famous female pirates of all time. And her name is, maybe you know, Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny was also born to a wealthy father, albeit in County Cork, Ireland. Her father was a wealthy lawyer who had married into a very powerful Irish family. But he wasn't very smart because he had an affair with his maid. And she gave birth to a daughter, Anne. When the wife found out, he had to skedaddle to South Carolina, taking his mistress and his daughter with him. He set himself up as a prosperous trader, and he wanted Anne to become an educated lady of society. Anne had some other ideas. She was very strong-willed and wild, and she also met a young sailor by the name of James Bonny, and she ran off with him, marrying him, causing her father to disown her, because he knew what James Bonny was after. What was he after? Her money. Yes. So they took off for New Providence in the Bahamas, and James Bonny was rather jealous and possessive. He wanted Anne to stay at home and wait for him in port like a good wife. No. They took a ship to the Bahamas, and as soon as she got there, she let James Bonny know that he disgusted her because he wasn't a very good pirate. And she took up with a dashing figure known as Calico Jack Rackham. He was known for his extravagant clothing. You know, we always take the best pieces off of our prisoners, you know. I'm going to take this off because I'm dying of the heat. You're cold? Do you want this? Because, look, you're not going to be cold in that. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Now, Calico Jack had recently become the captain of his own sloop, following its dispossession by its captain, Charles Vane. Now, you may not know this, but government-run ships, especially in the British Navy, were like tyrants. The captains were tyrants, and it was tyrannically run, and the sailors were often punished indiscriminately. Pirate ships, on the other hand, were more democratic, and they had their own articles, their own code. And I have here the articles that each pirate must sign when they board the ship. And if any of the rules are disregarded, they are not hesitating to mete out the punishments that are noted in the articles. Or they will dispossess a captain who seems to have lost the confidence of his crew or shown cowardice, such as was the case with Charles Vane. So in any case, Anne Bonny left James Bonny for Rackham, and while she was on the ship, she would dress as a woman because she was the captain's woman, except when they fought. When they fought, she dressed as a man, and she fought like a man, and she was violent. It is said that the first crew member to express displeasure at having a woman on board paid for his opinion with his life. She stabbed him through the heart. Oh, yes, yes. Now, as incredible as a woman's presence on board may have seemed to Rackham's crew, Anne Bonny was not the only woman aboard that ship. There was another woman disguised as a man by the name of Mary Read. Mary Read had been being dressed like a boy since she was a young girl by her mother in order to scam the parents of the husband who had fathered the son she had had who died. And she replaced the son with Mary and dressed Mary as a boy so that she could claim the inheritance. So Mary got used to being dressed as a boy. She did marry, but she ended up joining some ships. She joined an army, she fought, all sorts of things, and she ended up on Rackham's pirate ship. So Anne Bonny and Mary Read eventually discovered each other this way and became fast friends. They let Rackham in on the secret, and the trio of Rackham, Bonny, and Read wreaked havoc throughout the Caribbean for over a year until Anne became pregnant. They went to Cuba, where she had the child and apparently abandoned it there. So who knows? There's some Cuban running around related to Anne Bonny. Now, they say that the father of the child, Jack Rackham, is also the father of the Jolly Roger, the pirate flag. I don't think that's true. So just how did the pirate flag get its name? There are many theories, but we don't know for sure. I think the most obvious one is the English corruption of the French joli rouge, which means pretty red, because initially pirate flags were red for the blood, meaning no quarter would be given, no one would be spared. Eventually the color changed to black, and the name followed along with it. They say that pirates began using black to indicate that there was plague on board the ship, which would keep other ships and prying eyes away. Now, they also say that the name could come from the English slang for the devil, Old Roger, or it could come from Ali Raja, which is a Tamil name given to pirates that attacked in the Indian Ocean. So we will never know the origin of the name, but the purpose of the skull and crossbones was clear: intimidation and fear, tactics that Rackham, Bonney, and Reed used to their advantage. But they never made their victims walk the plank. No. We pirates never did that. That is a story that was invented by Daniel Defoe in his book Robinson Crusoe, and was then copied by Robert Louis Stevenson in the book Treasure Island. No, we had much more interesting ways of dealing with our prisoners. Now, one particular way was to tie prisoners to the mast and pelt them with broken bottles. Flogging is always very popular. You know what flogging is? Yes. The most interesting, though, is keel hauling. Now, the bottom of the ship is the keel. And a sailor in the British Navy, a pirate on a pirate ship who had disobeyed the rules, could be punished by keel hauling. His legs would be tied, he would be thrown over, and the rope would be pulled up under the ship. Now, what forms on the bottom of the keel?
Barnacles. Oh, they hurt.
Yes. So just imagine what that man would look like when he came out the other side. But don't worry. I will not keel haul any of you. I have my weapons, and as you can see, we have a pistol and we have a sword. We have cutlasses and swords, and I want to pass these around so you can feel the heft. Careful, don't poke anyone's eye out. In this regard, I am very much like Calico Jack Rackham. I don't want to see my prisoners hurt, and he never wanted to torture his prisoners unduly. Unlike Anne Bonny, so violent was she. So the sweet life is often short and violent. All three, Calico Jack, Anne Bonny, Mary Read, were captured. Calico Jack was hanged. The other two were tried and convicted, but if all accounts can be believed, incredibly, they both pleaded their bellies for a stay of execution, because English law stated that if a woman was to be executed, but she was with child, she could not be executed until after the birth of the child, because you couldn't kill an innocent babe in the womb. Now, Mary unfortunately succumbed to a fever while in jail, and Anne Bonny, it is said that her father actually came to rescue her, paid for her to be freed, and she went back to live with him in relative obscurity in South Carolina. I find this very difficult to believe. How could she go back to that after the life of adventure and piracy that she had known on the high seas? I could never do it. I would much rather be plundering a tea-laden merchantman. I don't know. Wouldn't you? We have a history of tea in this country, do we not?
We do.
With what? The Boston Tea Party. So we need to talk a little bit about tea. Now, did you know, let me see if I have it here. Did you get out the, oh, here we go. I told you I traded in China. And this is what we used. Tea, formed into bricks. Do you see how it's scored? You see the scoring? This allows you to more easily break the tea into pieces that can be used as currency. So I'll pass that around so you can see. But what, of course, was the most popular currency, especially for pirates? Gold. Yes, gold. Especially Spanish pieces of 8. Now, the colonies did not make coin. Coins were not minted in the colonies, and we used a collection of foreign coins, specifically Spanish doubloons. So we're going to pass around some coins, and you will see that there are little pieces, because, there you go.
Pieces of 8.
Yes, pieces of 8, exactly. So gold and silver are rather malleable, and they can be played with. They can be bent. So coins would be bent into pieces of 8 that could be used as change. Now, how many of you play the stock market? How many of you know anything about the stock market? Up until not too long ago, the stock market reflected the use of the Spanish pieces of 8 because the stock market was in 1/8 of a dollar. Do you remember that? It used to be, right? You remember, yes? So, but gold is very important in lots of ways. And one of the things that pirates are known for are their gold earrings. Now, why do pirates wear gold earrings? There are so many reasons why sailors wore gold earrings. This was ready cash. This was portable cash. And often on the inside of the gold earring would be inscribed the home port of the sailor or the pirate, so that if he washed overboard, if he was killed at sea and was not retrievable by his mates, and his body washed ashore, the hope was that some kind soul would give him a proper Christian burial, or even send his body back to his hometown so that he couldn't be buried on foreign soil or buried at sea. Now, the other reason that we pirates would wear these is, what was our big, important weapon? Cannons. Cannons. Now, if you are a cannoneer and you are manning the cannons, is it a quiet affair? No. So, we attach wax to our gold earrings. And when you are about to shoot the cannon, you can flip the wax up into your ears to protect your eardrums from the cannon blast. Yes, 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 yes. Now, one of the items that we traded, and it was a very important commodity, was sugar from the Caribbean. Sugar, very important in the making of a very typical drink. And what is that? Rum. Yes, rum. Arr. We have a song, don't we, about 16 barrels of rum? So, what is this? This is called a sugar cone. And it was typically wrapped in blue paper because blue makes white look whiter. So, for example, during the Middle Ages, during the Renaissance, noble women would often paint the lines, the veins of their chest with woad, which is a blue ink, to make their skin look whiter, because the whiter your skin, the more noble you were. And sugar was the same way. Sugar doesn't start out white. It has to be refined, and then refined again. And the more you refine it, the whiter it gets, but the more expensive it is. Yes. So, sugar manufacturers would use blue paper to wrap their sugar to make it look as white as possible, so they could charge more for it. And then, when these sugar cones or these sugar loaves made their way to someone's house, they would use sugar nippers to break off pieces of sugar. This is why we have the expression, would you like one lamp or two? Now, sugar, of course, is very important for that all wonderful drink, rum or grog. Grog is made from rum, water, and lime juice. Even the British Navy would give rations of rum and grog to its sailors. And why did we have this grog? Because you don't want the sailors drinking straight rum, because then they get too drunk to do their jobs. But if you add the rum to water and the lime juice, that serves two purposes. Well, three, really, if you count not getting the sailors too drunk. Also, it helped for the water to not go stale, as it did so often in the barrels on the ships. The lime juice prevented sailors from getting scurvy. Yes, because we need vitamin C in order to fend off that disease. And as the sailors drank their rum and their grog, they would sing sea shanties. Shanty is coming from the French chanter, to sing, and that is exactly what we're going to do tonight. So, could we get these started? Passing those around, please. All right, let's see if I can make this work. Okay. Okay, now this is a bit of a call and response.
1, 2, 3, 4. What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Okay, everybody got that?
1, 2, 3, 4. What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Find me a beer and take your chances.
Find me a beer and take your chances. Find me a beer and take your chances. Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Give him the hair of the dog that bit him.
Give him the hair of the dog that bit him. Give him the hair of the dog that bit him. Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Well, what do you do with a drunken sailor?
What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Put a lobster down his britches.
Put a lobster down his britches. Put a lobster down his britches. Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Dress him up in women's clothing.
Dress him up in women's clothing. Dress him up in women's clothing. Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Well, what do you do with a drunken sailor?
What do you do with a drunken sailor? What do you do with a drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way up she rises, way up she rises, way up she rises, early in the morning.
Keel, haul him, keel, haul him,
Keel, haul him, keel, haul him, keel, haul him, keel, haul him,
for coming out tonight to hear a little bit about female pirates. And if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to answer them right now. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, when you asked if we knew one of the most famous female pirates, I knew half of the name was Bonnie. Now, there was a movie, and I can never remember this man, I think he's German, but it had Walter Slezak as the crummy governor of one of the Caribbean islands, and Maureen O'Hara was coming over, I believe, from Spain to be his wife, but the pirates intercepted her ship, and one of the female pirates who was very good with a sword was, I think, that Anne Bonny.
Oh, probably.
Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
No.
Because there was an Anne Bonny who, I think she loved the guy who fell in love with Maureen O'Hara.
Ah, poor Maureen O'Hara. Oh my goodness.
From that.
I think Anne Bonny would have run her through, I think.
And also, when we went on the ghost tour in Keyport this past fall, and I didn't realize that, I don't think there were any women, but there were pirates who used to come over from New York, which you can see from Keyport, and I think they were coming over to steal mostly, in that case, I think it was liquor.
Oh, yeah, we stole everything. And we were all over the place, all over the world. And we still exist.
What era was it? What year about? I mean,
So the golden age of the piracy was the 17th into the 18th century. And then it sort of petered out. But there are still pirates. There are still pirates.
to this day?
To this day, yes.
Name one.
Mostly in Africa.
Oh, that's
Yes,
right.
yes.
Somalia.
Yes, Somalian pirates. Yes, Somalian pirates. Yes. Any other questions?
Were the women treated like the men?
Oh, if you were on ship, if you were a pirate, oh yes. Oh yes, you were expected to swab the deck, and you would get flogged if you disobeyed the rules. Absolutely. But there weren't too many women who would be openly women. They would hide the fact. Well, you know. You have to hide the fact as best you can, right? Anyone else? Yes.
How did the male pirates treat the women pirates? Did they take advantage of them? Or?
Oh no, usually not. Usually not, because the women were armed to the teeth, just like the men. And I can tell you that Anne Bonny, if anybody had tried anything on her, he would have found his entrails on the deck. Anyone else? Yes.
How realistic is it that you could hide the fact that you're a woman? You know, I mean,
Well, if you bind your breast, and we don't dress or bathe often on ship, so if you can find somewhere to do your business, then it's easy, and it depends on how you look, because there's some women that honestly look a little more masculine than others.
Modern pirates, they don't go after cruise ships?
I don't know. I think so. I'm not sure.
I saw a cruise ship that felt like it was circling, and there was a ship in the distance.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh.
Because we went closer than we were supposed to go because of the weather, so I didn't know if they were just killing time or.
Well, you might have also almost had a run-in with some modern-day pirates, and you would have quite a story to tell us tonight. Yes.
Would Anne Bonny have to train with a sword if she wanted to fight men?
Well, if you are fighting for your life and you have trained, she did train, I think, a little bit when she was a young girl. Her father probably let her, do some sword fighting, sword play, riding a horse, that type of thing. So, but if you're fighting for your life, you learn very quickly how to use a dagger and how to use a sword. And how to fire a pistol. Yes.
Yeah. You didn't touch on walking the plank.
No, we did talk about that. We didn't do that.
Oh.
That was invented by Daniel Defoe in his book, Robinson Crusoe.
Oh, it
Yes,
never
and then Robert Louis Stevenson repeated it in Treasure Island, so it sort of became a myth.
Oh.
And also the peg leg. Well, there were some with peg legs, but and then the parrot. There weren't too many pirates with parrots. That's another thing. So all these fun images that we have of pirates aren't necessarily true. Now, I do have a very interesting book here. If you've got the letters going around, if you could bring those back up, and you're more than welcome to come and look at the book. I think we've collected all the song sheets back, yes?
And she's got everything else.
Okay, excellent. So thank you everyone for coming tonight, and I want to tell you that December 3rd, December 3rd, we're going to be doing Victorian Christmas traditions, and in February, because we are getting ready to celebrate the semi-quincentennial, I want to see a show of hands for those who remember 1976. Yes, 1976, the bicentennial. We are going to party like it's 1976, but it's going to be 2026. And so in February, we are going to have George and Martha Washington here, and they are going to talk about their love story. Yes, so mark your calendars for February and make sure that you stay in touch with the library so that you know the dates. So thank you everyone for coming. If you would like any pictures, come on up. It kept you warm, didn't it? Yeah. Oh, thank you.